I mean, who's the Heisman coming down to really this year? Justin Herbert at Oregon, Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State, and Kyler Murray at Oklahoma, right? Yeah, I know some people are mentioning Tua Tagovailoa for Heisman, the Gump quarterback, but let's be real. I mean, has he put up okay numbers? Yeah, but he's just a system quarterback.
Type, Bama!
I've heard a lot of talk this week that this is a terrible week of college football, that there's not a lot of great games. And while I agree that there may not be the number of big games that we've seen in some of the weeks over the last month or so, there are some really, really big games in college football this week. And what about Michigan on the road at Michigan State? This is a huge in-state rivalry game. Of course, everyone knows Jim Harbaugh's struggles against his main rivals, Michigan State and Ohio State. Can they get that turned around this year in a game that really for Michigan is a playoff elimination game and hoping to stay in the Big Ten race as well? What about two undefeated top 25 teams in the ACC? NC State sort of flying under the radar this year. They go on the road to play Clemson in a battle of two undefeated teams. That's a huge game. And then a nighttime game, you got Oregon at Washington State. Hard to believe Washington State is ranked 25th. They came out of nowhere. They're sitting at 5-1. Oregon, of course, a huge win over Washington last week, but this also a playoff elimination game, in my opinion, both those teams sitting at one loss. So there are some great games within the top 25 this week. I'm going to talk about those three games and the rest of the games within the top 25 right now. Okay, real quick before we get into the video today, shout out to Matthew R. We did a sort of a surprise giveaway on the live stream last night to one of the current Patreon members, and Matthew R., you are the winner, sir. He emailed me last night, so he knows that he won. I believe I emailed you back. I'll get with you later today on the specifics, but yeah, he won whatever he wanted off of the Uncle Lou shop, the Uncle Lou store, whatever. The link is in the description of this video if you ever want your LouTube hat, LouTube shirt. There's 4 or 5 different shirts on there. The link is in the description of this video. Check it out. And don't forget that anybody that signs up on the Patreon page between yesterday, which was Thursday, and Sunday, whoever signs up between those 4 days is going to be entered in a jersey giveaway. I'm going to give a jersey away to one of the new Patreon members. So you have from yesterday till Sunday to get signed up on the Patreon page. I'll draw a winner for that on Monday, and whoever wins will get a jersey from the team of their choice. Of course, for all the existing Patreon members, we do giveaways all the time, including a jersey once a month to a Patreon member. All that's still going on. This is just a couple of extra giveaways I'm doing this month as a way sort of to thank you guys for all the support you've shown this season on the channel. All right, per usual, this video and all the preview videos that I'm doing this season are sponsored by the good people over at betnow.eu. There's a link in the description of this video that'll take you over there. They're going to get you set up on all your college football betting needs for the entire season. They've even given me a promo code to let you guys use. So when you get signed up over there, make sure you type in the promo code Uncle Lou. That's one word, all lowercase letters, Uncle Lou, and they're going to give you a 100% bonus on your deposit. Good luck. All right, here we go. Now, we're going to do this the same way we've been doing it all season. I'm going to start with the early games on Saturday, the noon games, and we're going to run through games all the way up through prime time. Again, this will be every top 25 team that's playing this week except the SEC teams. I did a separate video covering the SEC teams on Wednesday of this week. Also had another preview video I did yesterday that covered teams that aren't in the SEC and aren't in the top 25. So if you're a fan of a team that's not in the SEC or the top 25, check out yesterday's video. I may have previewed your team there. All right, here we go. In my opinion, the biggest game of the week here. Maybe the second biggest, but you got number 6 Michigan going on the road at Michigan State, who's ranked 24th. Now, Michigan comes into this game as a 7.5-point favorite. They're sitting at 6-1. Michigan State sitting at 4-2. I'm sorry. This one comes on noon on Fox. I think this is going to be a good game here. 7.5 points seems about right to me. What if I told you, now, if you've been following me, you know all during the offseason I was high on Michigan, and mainly for 2 reasons. I knew they were going to have a great defense again under Jim Harbaugh and all those elite classes he's signed over the last couple of years, and they were bringing in Shea Patterson, a transfer from Ole Miss. I don't think Shea Patterson is a Heisman contender or a record breaker or anything like that, but he's a definite improvement, in my opinion, over anything that Harbaugh's had at the quarterback position over the last couple of years since he's been at Michigan, I had high hopes for Michigan. I had them ranked real high in my preseason poll. They come out week 1, lose to Notre Dame, but they have not lost a game since. And every week that goes by, that close loss on the road at Notre Dame is looking better and better and better. Notre Dame, of course, is undefeated. They play Michigan State. Like I mentioned, the 2 losses. They lost to Northwestern, which is unexplainable, really. Northwestern has been a below-average team, even for Northwestern expectations this year. And they lost to Arizona State, another one that you kind of look back at now and go, how did they lose that one? But they did. They're 4-2. Michigan, as I mentioned, 6-1. Now, back to Michigan's offense here. Everyone knows Michigan struggles on the offensive side of the ball over the last couple of years. That's been the main reason Harbaugh hasn't been able to get over the hump when it comes to winning the division in the Big Ten, or really even being competitive against his main rivals or the good teams within that side of the division. He's never beat Ohio State. He's, 1-2, I believe, against Michigan State. So looking to get that turned around here. Michigan's offense has been a whole lot better this year than what we've seen over the last couple of years. Michigan is averaging 38 points per game. I didn't think it would be that good, to be honest. 38 points per game is really, really good. When you have a defense like Michigan's, and you can score 38 points per game on average, you're going to win a whole lot of games, okay? The defense is still great, only giving up 15 points per game. Last year, they only averaged 25 points per game. So they've improved almost 2 full touchdowns per game on offense this year over last year. You look at Michigan State, they're only averaging 26 points a game and giving up 22 points a game. So scoring almost 2 touchdowns a game less than Michigan and giving up over or about a touchdown more than Michigan is. I hate that this is a road game for Michigan, and in these rivalry games, there is some truth to what they say, that you throw the records out, all that kind of thing. But if you've watched these 2 teams play this year, Michigan has consistently been a good team. Even the game they lost to Notre Dame, it was a close loss, week 1, on the road, at night, hostile environment, and we now know Notre Dame is a pretty good team. I know there's a lot of Notre Dame haters, but the reality is Notre Dame is a pretty good team. They beat Michigan. They've beat Stanford. They're most likely going to go undefeated. They'll be favored in the rest of their games. That Southern Cal game is kind of looming at the end for Notre Dame. But anyway, the point is, Michigan has consistently been a good team this year. They've climbed back up the ranks after dropping that game to Notre Dame early, sitting at 6 now. I just think Michigan is clearly the better team here, and I think they're on a roll, and I think they're out to prove a point this year. And I think that starts this week. I think Michigan gets a huge win on the road against Sparty. I'm going to take the road favorite here. I think Michigan wins this game somewhere in the 14 to 17 point range. I really don't expect this game to be that close. All right, here's an interesting one here. You got Oklahoma ranked 9th. They're on the road at TCU. Oklahoma was off last week, but lost the week before, right, to Texas. They're an 8-point favorite in this one, 12 o'clock ABC. They got to go on the road to TCU. TCU known as sort of a defensive type of team, right, but they have really underperformed this year. Their best game was probably the loss to Ohio State. But they're sitting at 3-3 with losses to Ohio State, Texas Tech, and of course, Texas. I've been disappointed in TCU this year. Oklahoma, no more room for error. For Oklahoma, it's pretty much playoffs or bust this year, in my opinion. They're high on Kyler Murray. He's in everybody's Heisman conversation. He's in top 3 in almost every Heisman list you look at. I do think Oklahoma will win this game. The week off, new defensive coordinator. Of course, they finally got rid of that dud Stoops about 2 years too late, but they did get rid of him. So we'll see what, if any, impact or effect that has on Oklahoma's defense. We'll find that out this week when they go on the road to play TCU. I'm going to do it again here. I'm going to take the road favorite again. I think Oklahoma comes out, backs against the wall, puts on a dominating performance here on the road against the Horned Frogs. Give me the Sooners, the Land Thieves, the Engines, whatever you want to call them. I'll lay the 8 points. All right, also at noon over on ESPN2, you got Maryland goes on the road to play Iowa. Iowa, of course, ranked 19th and is a 10-point favorite in this one, 12 o'clock ESPN2. Maryland sitting at 4-2. beat Texas week 1. You look back now and wonder how the hell did that happen. Of course, same thing happened last year. They beat Texas week 1. Texas has been on a roll since then. They haven't lost. Beat Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. Maryland 4-2. 2 losses are to Michigan, which is expected, and Temple, which is a little bit of a head scratcher there. Now, Maryland has been a little bit better than I think most people thought they would be, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. They've got Matt Canada, brought him in from LSU last year, and he's done some good things for Maryland on the offensive side of the ball. Iowa, on the other hand, sitting at 5-1. Their only loss is to Wisconsin, a team that's sort of on a slide right now. I think this has the potential to be a pretty good game. Now, when you look at some of these stats here and what these teams like to do, Maryland wants to run the ball. Okay, they're a running team. They average about 250 yards a game on the ground. Iowa, on the other hand, is stingy on defense when it comes to giving up rush yards, only giving up about 80 yards per game on the ground. So this is going to be, if Maryland can run the ball in this game, then I think they've got a chance to keep this one close and potentially even pull the upset, control the clock with the ground game like they like to do, keep Iowa off the field, that kind of thing. If Iowa's defense comes out and shuts down Maryland's run game and you get a bunch of 3-and-outs, this one could easily turn into a blowout. It's at Iowa. I trust Iowa's defense right now more than I trust Maryland's offense. I'm going to take the favorite again here, third favorite in a row. Give me the Hawkeyes at home, late at 10 points. All right, now this one is one of the weirdest ones of the week to me. This one, 12 o'clock, ESPN2. 20th ranked Cincinnati goes on the road to play Temple. Cincinnati, 6-0. Temple, 4-3. Temple is a 3.5-point favorite. Now, I know Cincinnati hasn't played anybody all year. Their schedule is an absolute joke, but the point is they're 6-0, and that's just not easy to do. I don't really care who you're playing. To come out and perform at a high level week after week after week is not easy to do. You see some really, really elite teams struggle over games throughout the season. I mean, I mention this all the time, but, you know, Clemson losing to Syracuse last year, Oklahoma losing to Iowa State, Georgia losing to LSU last week. I mean, you see this sometimes. Teams just come out and lose to an inferior team. It just happens sometimes. Cincinnati's not done that. They're 6-0. And not only that, they're 5-1 against the spread. So not only are they winning, they're outperforming their expectations. Okay, 5-1 against the spread is great. Now Temple is 5-2 against the spread. So even though they're 3-3, they're winning their games that they're favored in by more than they're supposed to, and they're losing by less than they're supposed to most of the time, 5-2. So both these teams done pretty well this year against the spread. Temple has lost games to Villanova, Buffalo. Now Buffalo's a pretty good team, but Villanova and Boston College, two teams that are not good at all. I can't understand for the life of me why Temple is favored in this game. Now, a lot of times when you see something that looks really, really wrong like this, it's a sign. It's a trap. It's like they're begging you to take Cincinnati, so really you should take Temple. I guess they're going to trick me. Give me Cincinnati. I don't even think I need the 3.5 points. I would play this on the money line. I just think Cincinnati wins this game. Now, I don't think Cincinnati is good enough to beat a South Florida or a Central Florida, which they'll face down the road. But right now, I just think Cincinnati's playing a better brand of football. I'll take the 3.5 points just in case I'm dead wrong here. But if you're feeling froggy, take them on the money line and make you some extra money. Give me Cincinnati into 3.5. What a boring game this is, but we got to mention it since it involves a top 25 team. Illinois on the road at Wisconsin. Wisconsin ranked 23rd. This one comes on 12 o'clock FS1. Wisconsin's a 24.5-point favorite. Illinois 3-3 on the road here at Wisconsin, who sits at 4-2. Wisconsin's 1-5 against the spread. So, I mean, that's, you know, you wouldn't be surprised if I told you that Wisconsin has underperformed this year and underwhelmed. 1-5 against the spread, so they haven't lived up to expectations. I don't think they do it again here either. I haven't been impressed with Wisconsin, which is disappointing to me because I was high on them in the offseason. I love their running back, Jonathan Taylor, but things just haven't come together for Wisconsin like they hoped they would this year. I'm going to take the road team here and the 24.5 points. I'm sure Wisconsin will win this game, but 24.5 points, that's over 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Give me the Fighting Illini. Yeah, and the 24.5. Now here's one I'm going to watch this one. Georgia doesn't play this week, so I get my pick of games to watch without having to worry about missing the Georgia game here. Number 16th ranked and undefeated NC State Wolfpack goes on the road to take on the Clemson Tigers, ranked third, also sitting at 6-0. Clemson's a 17.5-point favorite in this one, 3:30 on ESPN. Was Clemson off last week? I believe they were. I think both of these teams were off last week, actually. This is a benefit for Clemson, in my opinion. Of course, they fired Kelly Bryant, sent him packing, promoted Trevor Lawrence to starter. He started the Boston College game a couple of weeks ago, and it was the most dominating performance of the year so far for Clemson. But Boston College is a terrible team. They won that game 63-3. They won't be winning this game 63-3. I can promise you that. I do think it helps Clemson to have that bye week here because of the quarterback situation. Trevor Lawrence, a true freshman. So every single rep he can get at every single practice is huge to any player, really, but especially to a true freshman starting quarterback. This is going to be big. Now, I do think this will be probably the best defense that Clemson has faced. A&M's got some playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, but NC State is no joke defensively either. Now, they haven't played a brutal schedule here. I mean, this is going to be a tough test for NC State. They've played Boston College, Virginia, Marshall, Georgia State, and I can't even read this last one. What is that? Oh, James Madison. So nothing impressive there for NC State. But again, just like with Cincinnati, if you're undefeated this late into the season, you're a pretty good team, no matter who you've played. This is a tough one here. It's at home, and I can't overestimate the importance of Clemson having that off week to get Trevor Lawrence ready. I just think he's going to see some things against NC State that he hasn't seen yet. Like I mentioned, Texas A&M was a pretty good defense, but Kelly Bryant played a lot of that game. They brought Kelly Bryant in when Trevor Lawrence looked a little flaky in that game to sort of calm things down. And really, I think Kelly Bryant was the difference in that Texas A&M game, not Trevor Lawrence. I do obviously think Trevor Lawrence is a better QB with tons more potential and a way higher ceiling than Kelly Bryant. But nevertheless, I think NC State's going to look to put a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence, try to show him a lot of things that he's never seen before. I'm not sure it will work to the point of NC State pulling off the upset here. I still think NC State was a better team last year than what I've seen from them so far this year, and they weren't good enough to get out of the division last year. I can't imagine that being the case this year either, but stranger things have happened. But again, 17.5 is a good number that I like to take. Give me the Wolfpack here in the 17.5. I'm banking on NC State keeping this thing close. All right, how about Colorado coming off a loss, their first loss of the year last week to Southern Cal, going on the road to take on a Washington team who season really came to an end last week with a loss to Oregon. Washington sits at 15th. Colorado was ranked until their loss last week. But so Colorado at Washington, 3:30 on Fox. Colorado 5-1. Washington, of course, 5-2. Lost last week to Oregon. Close game at home for Washington. And then, of course, lost week 1 in that neutral site kickoff classic against Auburn. A loss that now doesn't look all that good. The barn's on fire. Don't get me started on that. But Washington is a 17.5-point favorite here. That seems like a lot to me. When you think of Washington, you think of what? Jake Browning, been there forever, experienced veteran quarterback, playmakers on the outside, elite running back with Myles Gaskin. You think offense. Now, Washington's got a good defense, too, particularly in the secondary. But Colorado's averaging almost a touchdown more per game than Washington. Colorado's scoring 35 a game. Washington is only scoring 28 points per game this year. What happened to Washington's offense? I don't know. It'll be fixed next year, though, when they get a legitimate quarterback. Jacob Eason, Christ! Jacob Eason, I don't know if you ever heard of him before. But, yeah, he'll be there next year. But you're treading water right now with this Jake Browning. Seems like he hit his ceiling about a year and a half ago. A good quarterback, great at times, not elite by any stretch of the imagination. We can just hang that up. 17.5 is too many points here. Washington, a very demoralizing, emotional, tough loss last week that pretty much knocked them out of playoff contention. Now, Oregon still has a chance if things go, or not Oregon, I'm sorry, Washington still has a chance if things go a certain way to win their division and show up in the Pac-12 title game to take on probably a Southern Cal or a Utah. But that's not what they wanted when this season started. I'm going to take Colorado in the points here, 17.5. Give me the Buffaloes, though. Here's another one that could be interesting. Number 18, Penn State on the road at Indiana, 3:30 on ABC. Penn State's a 14.5-point favorite in this one. They're at 4-2. Indiana's at 4-3. Indiana barely beat Rutgers. They lost, they lost to Iowa, I think. Of course, Ohio State. Blowout losses, really. It's tempting to take the home team here. 14.5 is a number I usually like to take instead of give. I can't buy into Indiana this week. I still think Trace McSorley is one of, if not the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. I know Haskins is putting up some numbers, but I like Trace McSorley. Penn State took a couple of losses here. Michigan State, kind of a head-scratcher, close one to Ohio State. They're a much better team than Indiana. Yeah, this is on the road. I don't think it'll matter. I'm going to take the Nittany Lions here, the road favorite, and lay to 14.5. All right, and here's one of my favorite teams to lay points with this year, Central Florida. They're ranked 10th. They go on the road this week, play East Carolina, 7 o'clock over on ESPN2. Central Florida, of course, 6-0. East Carolina, 2-4. Blowout losses to Temple and Houston. UCF is 4-2 against the spread. So have I been right picking UCF every single week this season, which I have? No. But I've been right twice as many times as I've been wrong. And I have a feeling that if you take UCF and lay the points every single week this year, that's about how it'll end up. Through the 12 games, you're probably going to go 8-4 or so if you take Central Florida every single week and lay the points. The reason is they have an electric, dynamic offense with one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in America. What's his name? Mackenzie Milton, whatever. Maybe I'm getting the name right, but you guys know who I'm talking about, quarterback for Central Florida. The guy's great. Doesn't get enough recognition, really, in my opinion. But UCF comes out. I talk about this every week. I'll say it again now. UCF is not playing to win games. They're playing to impress pollsters and voters and the playoff committee down the road. Now, I don't think it's going to work in the long run. I think Central Florida could win every game 100-0, and they still wouldn't make the playoff. But you can't tell Central Florida that right now. So Central Florida is not interested in going to East Carolina and winning this game by 10 or 14 points. They want to go to East Carolina and win this game by 30 or 40. And I think they can. They're a 21.5-point favorite. East Carolina is a terrible team. I'm going to take Central Florida on the road, and I'm going to lay the 20.5 with Central Florida like I do every single week. I'll make more money over the course of the season laying points with Central Florida than I will playing the other side. All right, no need to watch this one unless you just want to make money. UConn at South Florida. South Florida ranked 21. UConn comes into this one at 1-5. They were off last week. They're terrible. The only win is against Rhode Island. Who even knew they had a team? Honestly, I forget Rhode Island's even a state half the time. But yeah, so they got to travel all the way down to Tampa, play South Florida. South Florida's a 34-point favorite, ranked 21st, 7 o'clock, CBS Sports Network. I feel the same way about South Florida that I do about Central Florida for the exact same reasons. Now, I haven't been as lucky playing South Florida every single week as I have Central Florida, but I still think over the course of a season, if I lay points with South Florida every time, I'll make more money than I lose. Give me the Bulls at home, and I'll lay the 34, which is just under 5 touchdowns. So I could easily see this being like a 45-10 type game, which would be a winner for you. Yeah, give me South Florida, though. And 2. Upset alert. If you're looking for the upset alert this week, here it is. Ohio State at Purdue. Ohio State, of course, all the way up to number 2 now in the latest poll, is a 12.5-point road favorite against the Boilermakers, 7:30 on ABC. So I guess this is the primetime ABC game here. Ohio State, of course, 7-0. Purdue, 3-3. And you're thinking, how's this going to be an upset? Impossible. Well, Purdue's going to sling the ball all over the field here. And if they're able to get their passing game going, this could turn into a shootout. Ohio State's defense has not impressed me this year. Of course, they lost Bosa several weeks ago, and turns out he's done permanently, not just with Ohio State, but with college football in general. He threw up the deuces and dipped out. That is what it is. Talked about that on the live show. Both of these teams are averaging over 500 yards per game. The over-under in this game is 68.5. That's high even for college games, okay? Now, college games, the over-unders are always higher in general than the pro games. Pro games tend to see over-unders in the 38 to 44-point range. College, you tend to see them in the 44 to 54 type range. 68.5 is very high for an over-under. I would probably take the over if you're into betting over-unders. I don't typically do that. Maybe once every couple of weeks I will. But this is going to be a shootout here, and it's at home for Purdue at night. So hostile environment here. If the crowd can get involved, if Purdue can get out to an early lead in this game, if Purdue is able to complete some passes, stretch the field here with their passing game, which is what they want to do. You got to remember, Purdue put up 500 yards passing. Purdue did 500 yards passing against Mizzou a few weeks ago. I mean, they just love to sling the ball around. If they're able to get going like that, this has the potential, this has the makings of a potential upset. I'm not convinced it'll happen. We had a ton of upsets last week in the top 10. Doubtful you'll see anything like that this week, but that doesn't mean that a top 10 team can't lose. And if you're looking for potential upsets, a good place to look is, ranked teams playing on the road in night, hostile environment type situations, and that's what Ohio State is walking into. Has the Nick Bosa thing affected Ohio State at all? Probably not. Like I said, he's been out for a few weeks anyway, so I don't really think that him announcing he's leaving permanently would have that big of an impact on the team, but point remains. However, I'm not buying it. I think Ohio State is going to roll in this game. 12.5 is under 2 touchdowns. I do think Purdue will move the ball and score some points here, but I think Ohio State can win this game by more than 12.5. I mean, could you see Ohio State winning this game 45-28? I could. That would be 14 points. That would be a winner for you. Give me the Buckeyes. I'll lay the 12.5. All right, last up today, a Pac-12 game. This one's 7:30 on Fox. Oregon at Washington State. Washington State ranked 25th and 5-1. Unreal. How'd they sneak up in here? Mike Leach, the Bigfoot of college football coaches. This guy's never seen a conspiracy theory that he didn't believe in. Oregon, of course, big win last week at home against Washington. Now has to turn around and go on the road to play Washington State. And Washington State is actually favored in this game by 3. Now, why is Washington State favored here? Well, they're a pretty good team. I don't think they're as good as Oregon, and I don't think most people think they're as good as Oregon. But you see this all the time. A team wins a huge, emotional, close, tough, hard-fought game, and they come out the next week and they lay a complete egg. Florida did this last week against Vanderbilt, especially in the first half, after the previous week having a huge win over the Corn Dogs. I mean, I could name 100 examples of this. To me, that's the only reason why Washington State would be favored here. The home crowd is a factor here in this game. I just think Oregon's the better team. And listen, Oregon, in my mind, is really the last hope for the Pac-12 in terms of any type of playoff potential. They're sitting on the 1 loss. They've already beat Washington. Southern Cal, even if they get better as the season goes along and beat an undefeated Notre Dame at the end of the year and end up winning the Pac-12 title, they're already sitting on 2 losses. I think Oregon's the last chance here. I think they find a way to get this done on the road. Washington State's only loss was to Southern Cal, by the way, by 3. But now, see, even if Washington State wins this game, because you're saying, well, how is Oregon the only hope? Washington State's only got the 1 loss. They play Oregon this week. They still got to play Stanford. They still got to play Washington. And if they get through all that and win the division, then they get the honor of playing Southern Cal again, maybe Utah, in the Pac-12 title game. I don't see Washington State running through that schedule. I think Oregon has a better chance right now of finishing the season with 1 loss. Even if Washington State wins this game, I don't like Washington State's chances to run the table. Oregon, in my opinion, has a better shot at a playoff berth out of the Pac-12 than Washington State does based on remaining schedule and really just how good overall these teams are. I'm going to take the road team to win outright here. I don't need the 3 points. I think Oregon's a better team. I like their quarterback. Justin Herbert, is that his name? Another potential Heisman. Who's the Heisman coming down to really this year? Justin Herbert at Oregon, Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State, and Kyler Murray at Oklahoma, right? Yeah, I know some people are mentioning Tua Tagovailoa for Heisman, the Gump quarterback, but let's be real. I mean, has he put up okay numbers? Yeah, but he's just a system quarterback. Type. Bama! It's just that simple. Anyway, point is, I think Oregon wins this game. Give me the Ducks on the road. I don't need the 3 points. They'll win outright. All right, that's it for this week's previews. We've done the SEC, we've done the top 25 games, and I've done other games that were of interest to me. That video was done yesterday. Of course, Georgia's off this week, so no hype and hate video today. I don't really hate the bye week. I think it's boring, and I'm not necessarily a fan of bye week, but no reason to make a Hape and Hype video about bye week. Georgia will win this week without a problem. I'm not concerned, and I'm not worried. The live schedule or the video schedule for tomorrow will be exactly the same as every Saturday, minus, of course, the Georgia halftime and post-game video, because there is no Georgia game. I'll be live for you guys in the morning for College Game Day. Lou Jr.'s got soccer practice tomorrow morning, and I won't find out until this afternoon what time that practice is. If the practice is at 9, which is normally when I do the live show on Saturday mornings, I'll have to move the live show to 10:15 or 10:30 and do that live show when I get home from the soccer practice. So I'll try to let you guys know if you follow me on Twitter at CrazyUncleLou. I may even try to post in the YouTube community tab on my YouTube channel once I find out exactly what time that soccer practice is, so you guys can know what time to tune in to the Uncle Lou Game Day Live tomorrow. I want to do it. I like doing it at 9, but like I said, if he has practice from 9 to 10 or something like that, it's going to have to be a little bit later. I'll do my best to keep you informed. I appreciate you guys watching. Thumbs up this video. It's real easy to do. Takes no time at all, and that helps me more than anything else you could possibly do. So please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to LouTube if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year, and a lot of times they're even watchable. Have a great morning! Yeah, I have to.